You're listening to The Fully Booked Therapist with Heather Hommel. This is the business coaching show for hands-on therapists who are done under-earning and ready to build a practice that pays them more than enough. Real conversations, real results, your real life. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Fully Booked Therapist podcast. I'm your host, Heather Hommel. We're in the middle of our series on the core standards of the Fully Booked Therapist. And today we are on standard 2. They are willing to fail. And I want to start by telling you something I have never done perfectly and something I think about all the time when I watch my clients build their own practices. So I'm going to talk to you about the moment I decided to become a coach before I actually was a coach. When I made this decision to leave my hands-on therapy business, it was called Restoration Myofascial Release, and transition into coaching, I was nowhere near ready. I just want to be so clear about that. I was not yet trained as a coach. I did not have a certification. I did not have a roster of clients or a proven offer or even a clear sense of exactly what I was going to be doing. But what I did have was belief, a belief that I knew enough about my own experience, my own mistakes, and there had been a lot of them, to help other therapists avoid the same ones. And that felt like enough to start. So I took every step I could think of, even before I felt ready to take them. I closed my business. I enrolled in the life coach school. And while I was in school, still learning, I was also working with my own business coach. And I wrote a book based on everything I knew about what had worked in my practice, and I published it right away. Before I was certified, before I had any other letters after my name, before I had any legitimacy to tell me that, or to tell others that I knew what I was doing. I started interviewing other hands-on therapists and business owners, not because I had all of the answers or even any of the answers, but because I wanted to really fully understand their problems. And I wanted to know what was actually in the way for them or what they perceived were the things in the way. And then I put together a one-on-one coaching offer so I could start practicing what I was learning in coaching. And then came all the sales calls. So many sales calls that ended in a no, or worse, in me getting ghosted. Calls where I thought it went well, and then I would hear nothing. Calls where I could tell the person on the other end, they were pulling back and I didn't know how to bring them back. Many no's, silence, more no's. But I kept going because I believed that I could help. And because I knew that the only way to get better was to keep doing it, to keep going through that, even when it wasn't working yet. And then I got my very first yes, my very first client, Gina. And then more calls, more no's, then a few more yeses. And then one month I looked at my numbers and I had made $20,000. And it blew my mind. Had I waited to be ready, that would have never happened for me. Either would my first $100,000 year, that wouldn't exist. The clients I've watched double and triple their rates and their income, the ones having their own $10, $15, and $20,000 months, none of that would exist because I would still be waiting. That is what the willingness to fail makes possible, not just for me, but for everyone on the other side of you just getting started. So, I want to talk about what waiting looks like because I think a lot of therapists do not realize that they are doing that. Waiting to be ready sounds like a lot of different things. It sounds like I just need one more certification before I raise my rate. It sounds like I'll start making offers once I have a better system in place. It sounds like I need to just figure out exactly who I help before I can really put myself out there. It sounds like I'm almost ready. I just need a little more time. I just need to perfect my website first. So here's the thing. None of those thoughts are unreasonable on the surface, right? More training is good. Systems do matter. And knowing your niche does help. These things are all true, but they become a problem when you're using them as a reason not to move, when the learning is a substitute for the doing, when you are waiting to complete another seminar before raising your rate or before calling yourself an MFR therapist or a massage therapist or whatever the modality is that you practice. When ready becomes a destination that's going to keep moving, like you're going to keep moving the goalpost further and further away every time you get close to it. Here's what I've learned. Ready is not a feeling that you arrive at before you start. Ready is what you become by starting. It's a very interesting phenomenon. You don't actually get confident by thinking about doing the things. You get confident by doing the things. So whether that's in making offers and getting some no's, learning from those and making more offers, you get comfortable with your rate. You don't get comfortable with your rate by sitting with it, right? You get comfortable with it by saying it out loud, telling everyone, feeling the discomfort, watching the client say no or watching the client make a comment and continuing on, continuing to tell the next person like it's just the news. The fully booked therapist is not someone who figured it all out first and got permission from everyone, got agreement from everyone. They didn't figure it all out first and then act. They are someone who acted and figured it out along the way. They calculated that rate and they put it out into the world and they became the person who could charge the rate. I want to get specific about what this standard looks like in practice because I think it can sound abstract until you see it in the real moments. Willingness to fail looks like quoting your rate to a new client, even though your stomach wants to throw up, and then quoting it again to the next person and the next one after that. It looks like asking for the rebook before you feel natural doing it. Saying out loud, I would love to see you again next week. When does that work for you? Even when it feels awkward, even when you're not sure that they will say yes. It looks like putting that offer together before you have it perfectly figured out, sending it out in an email or telling someone in person and learning from what happens next. It looks like getting on a call with a potential client who might say no. You get the no, and then you get on the next call anyway. It looks like trying something your coach has suggested, even when you're skeptical, giving it a real shot before deciding that's not going to work for you. It also looks like showing up as the expert version of yourself before you really truly feel like one. Walking into the treatment room with confidence in what you know, even when there's still so much more to learn. And it looks like when something doesn't work, not treating that as evidence that you're the problem, just treating it as information. What do I know now that I did not know before? That is such a valuable, high value question to ask yourself. This one is too. What would I do differently next time? And then actually doing it differently. That is worth so much. That is the fully booked therapist relationship with failure. Not avoidance, not shame, for sure, not shame. Just information and then going at it again, making the next attempt. Last time we talked about standard one, being honest and vulnerable. And I said at the end of that episode that honesty and vulnerability and the willingness to fail live right next to each other, right? They're cousins. And I want to show you exactly what I mean by that. Being willing to fail requires honesty. It requires you to be honest with yourself about the fact that you don't have it all figured out yet, and you act anyway. It requires you to be honest with your clients, your coach, your community about where you are at in the process, even when where you are at feels super messy. And vulnerability is that willingness to fail. Vulnerability is what willingness to fail actually feels like from the inside. Every time you make an offer before you feel ready, you are being vulnerable. Every time you get on a call or you answer your phone not knowing how it's going to go, you're being vulnerable. Every time you try something new in the treatment room, you are being vulnerable. These two standards aren't really separate things. They're two sides of the same coin. And together, they are what make every other standard actually usable. Before we get done today, I want to leave you with a question. What are you waiting to be ready for? not as a judgment, genuinely. What is the thing you keep saying you will do when the time is right? When you know a little more, when you feel a little more confident? Because there is something. There is always something. And I want you to name it, even just to yourself, because naming it is just the first step to deciding whether you're going to keep waiting or whether you're going to just do the thing. You don't have to feel ready. You just have to be willing. That is the standard, and it is available to you right now, exactly as you are. Standard 2, the fully booked therapist is willing to fail, not because failure is the goal, but because failure is what lives between where you are and where you want to be. And the therapists who get fully booked are the ones who are willing to walk through failure to get to where they want to go. Next time, we're going to talk about standard 3. The fully booked therapist does the heavy lifting. And if you think willingness to fail is about mindset, wait until we talk about what actually happens after you decide to go for it. If you're ready to build your fully booked practice inside a real container with real coaching and a community of therapists doing this work alongside you, come find me at heatherhammel.com. That's HeatherHammell.com. Foundations is where these standards stop being ideas and start becoming your actual practice, where we have real conversations, get real results, and you live your real life. I'll see you next week. Thanks for spending this time with me today. If you're a hands-on therapist who is ready to get fully booked and build a practice that actually pays you, I want to help you do that. Head over to heatherhammel.com to find out how we can work together. And if you loved this episode, please share it with someone who needs it. See you next week.